Okay, um, welcome everyone to our third session of the webinar series Raw IQ. If you missed any of the previous two sessions, you can catch them on our YouTube page. I'm Claire Williams and I work at First Digital as a Vendor Alliance Manager. Today we'll focus on Fabric IQ. First, a few house rules before we kick off. All microphones and cameras have been disabled for today's session. However, if you have any questions, please feel free to share them directly with me or post it in the chat. The session is being recorded and will be shared after the webinar. Yeah, that's it from me. Over to you, Greg.
Thank you, Claire, and welcome everybody. Many of you probably would know me. I'm Greg Fibiger, Head of Data and Analytics, and really taking First Digital Data and Analytics team into this world of Fabric or IQ as such, and really trying to build proof of concepts and assist clients in understanding it, which is part of the session that we're going to do today. And I'll do a lot of little demos and just talk you through it. And I think the objective from my side is to kind of demystify it and to leave you with something that you guys can think about, and especially many of you already in Fabric, because this is a Fabric edition. Right, so I will be sharing my screen. You can post questions and we can always answer them afterwards after I've presented. It's an hour presentation. I'll leave 10 minutes maybe at the end for a little bit of Q&A. And I'll be switching off my camera and sharing my screen, and we take it from there. All right, I just want to confirm that you can see my screen.
I can.
Okay, perfect. Right now, and again, just I'm not going to show you the whole slide deck. I'm just going to highlight certain aspects of the slide deck, because what is interesting for me, and we start building these proof of concepts for ourselves to understand what Fabric IQ is. For those that are joining for the first time, so I represent Antley, First Digital, which is a subsidiary of the First Tech group. We have 4 areas we focus on, and coincidentally, the Microsoft IQ falls in 3 of them. So we've got like innovation, automation, digital workspace, and then we down at the bottom. In the basement, that's us. And yeah, this is how we work together. But what we found is that there's so many areas in which we work shoulder to shoulder, you know, and scaffold things together, because ultimately it's AI, right? So that's kind of where we sit in terms of the bigger picture. Now, I think some of you may have attended already some of the sessions. I think Chris Bertha had his session on Work IQ. So Microsoft have produced, or they've provided for us in preview, at least in Fabric, still in preview, what they call Microsoft IQ. And hopefully at the end of this session, you would see and have a clear picture what this Fabric IQ can do for us in terms of analytics. But there are 3 different IQs that they've categorized for us. Work IQ, I think that's the one we've run already, you know, which understands context, roles, and tasks within daily workflow. So, for example, you can go and ask it, you know, go and see how quickly I respond to emails and how quickly do I resolve emails, you know, that type of thing. Or how, you know, what is my contribution in generic across Teams meetings, as an example. And then down at the bottom, Foundry IQ. So again, you've got Foundry IQ, which builds those custom and deploys specialized AI agent. And I think that's Nathan and the team on innovation that do that. And wedged in the middle is our topic for the day, Fabric IQ. So you can see in the broader holistic view that they've got 3 different IQs that they've introduced. One for Work IQ, one for Foundry IQ, and those AI agents, and then my good old friend, the Fabric IQ. Now, and again, I'm just going down my little deck at this stage. So we have huge challenges with our data. And you guys know a lot of you have already migrated across to Fabric, have been using Fabric. You Power BI gurus that are sitting on this meeting, you're doing everything. But there are still many little areas and challenges we have. So, for example, data everywhere. So, data lives there on some IoT that's on a farm that's capturing some blob, some video of, I don't know, some wolves that are coming to eat my sheep. That's data. And then another guy's got this data, and it's all over the show. So now, again, and even in one lake, it lives in no context. You like drop it in the one lake and there it parks. Maybe I'm going to use it. I don't know. Maybe put it in the bronze, and you guys know what I'm saying. A very important one is conflicting interpretations. I'm going to get to this because here's one of our use cases we can answer very quickly. Data catalogs, the taxonomy, all these big words we use, the lingo of my business. And how do I interpret data differently to you? And we do it every day. It's like music. I like certain music, you like certain music. AI doesn't know what music we like unless we tell him in what context we're saying it. So AI gets confused. It's confused as to, yes, Greg, I actually don't know. There's this piece of data that you've got there, but I don't know how to interpret that. Or I'm interpreting it ambiguity and so forth. And of course, that's bad outcomes. So you get this report and it's like skewed because the understanding of what AI asked the data is different to what you're getting. Type of scenario. You guys know what I'm saying. So in terms of Fabric, I'm just drawing that diagram, but I'll go to my tried and tested. Now, a lot of you have seen this. This is Fabric, right? This is the one I use. This is my go-to architecture. So still the same. I've got my sources. The end goal downstream when it is to create some amazing Power BI reports. I maybe want to do some machine learning on those algorithms. I may be doing real-time analytics, which is in flight, and I can go and do an analytics on it. I've got this perfect system in my world that I can do an enterprise data catalog. I can do data governance, data quality, lineage, maturity of data, and you can string off all the stuff that we do. That's Fabric that we know and that we're familiar with. The concepts from way back in the 2000s or even in the 90s, we're familiar with the concepts. Now, yes, Fabric. So what they've done is they've now in March in preview said to us, right, Fabric, the first thing is it's a workload that sits on top of an existing one lake environment. So you can see here that I just put it here now, so it's not aesthetically beautiful, but you can kind of see where this thing resides now, called Fabric IQ in the bigger picture. Okay, and the whole concept behind it, and this is my definition of it. So you'll probably find different definitions. So, but it's my understanding. Um, it takes raw tables. So we've got raw tables that are lying in one lake, and I'm going to show it to you. So it's coming from these different systems, IoTs, and in unstructured, semi-structured. We dropped it in the one lake. But what it does is it turns those raw tables into business understandable data. Right. And I'm going to show you now what I mean by that. So that's where Fabric resides. In preview, we're not sure when it goes into production. So I've got these beautiful little diagrams. I'll get to it now, and it's all blah, blah, blah stuff. But let me give you the real world now. So if I go back to this, and I've just said to you that business understandable. So let me give you examples of the challenges we sit with. Let's take one. Okay, I'm going down a bit. Here we go. So a real example is ambiguity around data. So I'm sitting with this raw data. Now I'm going to use AI big time. I'm using it in Power BI. I'm going to show you the demos, and it's all brilliant. So for example, we might have a problem. We got this concept called the GP, gross profit, but finance sees it as revenue, COGS, and marketing sees that as something else differently. So the concept of what is gross profit within our business is very difficult because it doesn't understand. So with Fabric, your ontology, and I'm getting to that word now, you can create a clear definition of what is gross profit, not just for the business holistically, but also for finance and marketing. So when the question comes in, when the natural question is asked via AI, you can answer it because, or it can be answered by Fabric IQ because it understands context. A silly example. Let me give you another one. Acronyms. I always use this one, and I say to guys, right, you go to meetings when you started a new company, you guys know, and they like the MDS over the DQS over the PDE, and you kind of already lost in that first acronym because you like MDS and you scratch your head, and I think it's Master Data Services. No, in that company, it might be marketing diverse strategies. So we've got ambiguity here. Now, what you can do with Fabric in the ontology, you can define acronyms. It's like your taxonomy. If we talk MDS in this business or in this business unit, then I know it's Master Data Services. However, if marketing talks it, it's marketing diverse strategies. So you set up this catalog and it fixes that. I think you guys know where I'm going. This is only one portion, by the way. Now, another one. This is a big one. So if I say to you, and I use this example, it's raining outside. So I say this. I'm saying to you, it's raining outside. Then one person might interpret that as, "Sheesh, it's amazing because I can go stay in, start a little fireplace, or start a fire, and I can read a book." Another guy is like, "Oh man, I can't go play golf." Now we've got ambiguity. It's the understanding of what it's raining outside. So we've got like different versions of it. What Fabric IQ provides us is to give granular context to data, so that when somebody asks, "Show me how many persons use Power BI," because pay licensing and blah blah blah, and in basic AI it counts the logins, so it's just counting the logins. But with Fabric, we can take it much deeper because we can also give the depth of it. What was exported? How long were they on here? So they're clicking on the report, and what do they do? I'm giving an example. So a Fabric IQ allows us then to create that what we call data catalog. So it's like your lingo of your business. And then AI would fully understand what we're talking. And here's a wonderful part. You see, let me get back to my little drawing here, my famous drawing. What they've done is and we're going to talk semantic models ontology now. But if it's isolated in a BI semantic model under BI, so it looks like this, your old Power BI semantic model. Right, it's kind of downstream and it's very specific for what am I trying to do? Sorry guys, let me just get back. Can you guys still see my screen, Clay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. So it's there. It's isolated and it's for a specific report. Let's say I'm doing a marketing report, kind of thing. What they've done cleverly now, they've shifted it upstream. They've shifted it into one lake. So we can build the core of Fabric IQ is a semantic model. It's the foundation. So we can take that semantic model that I quickly showed, and we can build one here. Now the difference is they're like, "Greg, but listen, I can take any raw data, any IoT, and I'm going to show it to you guys. I can take anything and I can relate it like a semantic model, right? And I can put rules on it." So it's quite amazing. This is where it becomes amazing for us. So that's the first thing. So holistically across a business, I'm moving the semantic model upstream into the one lake that I can create it there. So the first concept that you guys will hear about is the semantic model, which is that clear, logical business view of your lakehouse tables, right? And it groups related entities together. And if you want to ask me what it looks like, there's it. I've created one, yeah. So I've got a store, a products, a sales event. This is historical data coming in from one from Excel, one and two from SQL, I think. And then I've got this freezer data. This is a storage freezer. That's real time. It's using event houses. So this is happening in real time. So I'm already building this semantic model that I'm talking about there. Secondly, so in my example, I've taken 4 tables. And I'll quickly go and find my little drawing on there we go. So you see, I've built this semantic model. So the first thing to take away, it's not new to many of you guys. Many of you guys are designers and architects of note already. So all we're saying is you can now create a semantic model inside one lake, right? Excuse me. I've created 4 entities. Always think of an entity like the old days, like Kimball, design. An entity equates to a table. Yeah, you guys would remember that. And then a dimension would equate to a column. So it's still the same concept. So I'm taking data from across my business, historical data under product sales events and stores. Yeah, and I've got Freezer, and then I link it all up. And then I can start asking it with my data agent questions. Right, here comes the spinners now on top of the semantic model. So semantic model is your first little level. You're going to build a semantic model. Then what they say is we can now build the ontology layer on top of it. So once you've got your semantic model, right, you can now say, I want to build an ontology. And this acts as the business dictionary and the rule book. So this is where I can get very, very creative. Those examples I called, we can have one version of interpretation of data. So it can even double up like a master data of something. So what it does then, you'll see it now when I show it to you in Fabric. You've got your semantic model, you've got your ontology built on top of that. So you can answer in plain business language. Like you'll see in my example on the freezer, we want to monitor the temperature. And if a temperature is to a certain level, we're not happy. But we also want to automate it. We don't want to sit and get emails and stuff. We want to kick off some kind of a workflow that'll hit remedial action on it. So that's kind of like a rules. Um, and that's what the ontology layer allows us to do. It takes out ambiguity, it takes out all that stuff and nonsense. And then on the ontology layer, so it's a semantic model, that's your foundation. Think of a foundation of a house, you build this ontology on top of it, big word, but that's the word. And then intelligent actions. So on the ontology layer, I can have AI agents. There's two agents that are in preview in Fabric IQ. It's the data agent and operations agent. I'm going to talk about them now. So you've got two agents you can use, right? And then I can have rules and alerts, which works with my data activator. And that's just the example that I'm going to show you. So if you look at this picture and you take a snapshot with your eyes and you click your eyes and this is kind of what they've done for us. In the real world, it's basically back to that little slide of mine. It's lying there. It means I can build a semantic model, and then I build the ontology on top of that model. And that's practically what it does. I'll actually share a bit of these slides with you guys because, yeah, it's a bit more oomph. You got your one lake, and there's your fabric ontology, and blah blah blah. So yeah, I've got all these little pictures there. There you can see it. This is the one I want to get to. Um, so in summary, what I'm saying is Fabric IQ is part of Fabric now. The first question you guys are going to ask, if not already asked, is, Greg, so what's this going to cost me, bro? It's part of Fabric. So currently it's your consumption. And if you're on F8, it's part of that. However, it does use consumption. So it's that old thing about, a consumption usage, but we'll get to that. So let's talk about I've given you examples, and you guys can read through all the blah, blah, blah of this slide deck, which I created, which I'll share with you guys, right? And you can use it to go and sell it further wherever you are. But I want to make it more pragmatic. So if I look at my world now, okay, so I've got the one lake, and I've got my sources coming in. Again, it accommodates all 200 plus sources from ADF, from Azure Data Factory, or whether you're importing that via StoreProx or notebooks, whatever you're doing. And it also then obviously covers structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data. So you bring it into the one lake. And then in the one lake, you would create your semantic model. So let's see what I've got here in the background. So you can see, let me quickly show you guys, this is my workspace. I'll open up my workspace. And again, it's also something familiar with you guys. This is the one I use. It's actual Fabric I'm using now. I'm in Fabric. I got a consumption 4, have I? Two maybe. But you can see my bronze medallion structure. You can see my silver. You can see my gold. That's my North Star, right? You can see there's all my little semantic models that I'm going to do Power BI Copilot on. You can see I've got a Power BI one now, which is quite an amazing one, which I can show you maybe if we have time towards the end in terms of Copilot. I've got my data activators, right? We know that the data activator is that little oversight, like the old triggers. You guys that come from SQL would know, right? It waits and it waits and if some condition is met, if that condition is met, kick off some action. And we set alerts in SQL with SQL Server Alert. You guys would remember, and it was linked to your Exchange server, if you guys can remember. And then you would like mail yourself, but you would only get the mail the next morning, and then the company is already closed because it was a P1 type of thing. So in Fabric, so you can see I've got my structure. I've also got data science, which is another topic, but that is quite amazing, where we've built POCs around churning of data. And then I've got my little IQ. So I've just kept my little IQ over there. Now, there's the ontology. And if I open up the ontology, you can actually see that there is the lakehouse being my that semantic model. You can see I've got data agents running. I'll open it up now for you. I've got my telemetry data, right, which is using custode query language, because this is the event house. And we're building this as we're going along. But back to my drawing and to understand the concept of it, right? Where's that one? This one over here. So what they've done is, now let's say I've got my ontology, my entities, my relationships, my rules and metrics, which I'm going to show to you guys now. It's got two agents that I use, right? Or that I use, that Fabric IQ uses. The one is the data agent, and the data agent is a conversational AI agent, and it looks like this. So if I now go and I open up the data agent, there you can see my four entities. I'm zooming in for you guys. I've got my retail sales ontology built on that semantic model. I've got my four different tables. Freezer, I now know that's real time. That's an event house. So I know it's using the custom query language. It's ongoing. It's streaming in. And that's a very critical one for me. And then related to that is product sales and store. But I've already preempted these questions. So I asked it a question. I'm using the data agent now, so I'll zoom in. So I asked it, for each store, show any freezers operated by that store that ever had a humidity lower than 46%. Okay, it's like a silly question. And then it comes back and it says, oh, okay, Greg, here are the freezers. There's that store minimum 45, 41. So store AMS did not have any freezers with. So it kind of comes back with an answer. Okay. That is what we refer to as the data agent. It's conversational. You guys know it well. You're talking to Copilot, you're talking to ChatGPT. It's the same thing. I can ask that ontology those questions. So, for example, I can start asking things like, like the understanding of the acronym MDS, and how do you interpret that understanding? Because when I push it downstream to Power BI, we can't have ambiguity. I think you guys get it. So that's one portion of it that's very powerful. Now, and then you can see that when on the retail sales ontology, it's basic, just the questions that I can converse with it and debate with it and negotiate with it and get all those answers. The second portion of it, if I go back to my drawing over here, is operations agent. Now, this is where it becomes next level, right? It's which is more an autonomous action. Now, think of the old triggers. Think of all that coming in. So what you would have here is, if I go back to this environment, right, and I'm just opening up one of these. So yeah, I'm in my entities. These are my tables, right? And I can see my freezer over there, and it's got all the data. Now, and again, we also just starting with this. Remember, this was in preview now last month. But we've taken a decision to move with it pretty quickly because, ongoing We've got many migrations we're doing where people are moving into Fabric. Some are starting afresh, and we want to make sure we understand it so that we can early bind for the clients. In other words, we can say earlier, you know what, we don't have to build this semantic model downstream inside Power BI or embedded. Why don't we shift it upstream and we build this one ontology that AI can consume? So that's kind of why we're pushing it. But there's Freezer over there. Now, back to my drawing. So operations agent, I now know by asking the data agent, listen, just check for me those freezes, over time, which ones have, below a certain degree. Then I can go in, yeah. Now I'm talking about operational agent freeze, and I've got the ellipses. They never got rid of that. And then you can see where I'm at now. So I'm in the entity, that's like a table. And then I want to create a manage a rule now because I want to really go much deeper into this. So what I do is I go to manage rules, and we have actually created the rule. Okay. So it's connecting now, and you can see I called the rule minus 40-degree notification, and it's running. So in the real world, this is happening. Where's my drawing? So Fabric IQ is there. It's using the data activated to check, and it's in real time. So if I look at the rule that I created, let's go and click on this rule. I hope you guys can see. I'll zoom in for the guys that can't see. So basically, again, naming convention, again, this is like POC, but you'll have proper naming conventions, right? Then I created a condition. Gentlemen and ladies, I'm telling you that we're familiar with this. You've done this KPIs, and you've done these if else then if and case selects and stuff in Power BI, even going back to SQL. So this is not unfamiliar to us. We're just saying if the condition, if it's less than minus 40 degrees, right, and I can set every time this condition is met or whatever I want to go and do. So what I set up is I said message to individual, me and old Wayne Short, who's one of our senior engineers. So Wayne Short, so if this condition is met, if any fridge is less than minus 40, mail us. But have a look here. This is where it's powerful. So that's just emails. I can Teams the team and stuff. But look what I can start doing further, because I can now start running pipelines. I can start running notebooks, Spark jobs. In actual fact, this is where it's another powerful thing. I can run Power Automate. Now, why I'm saying that, let's take a silly example. Let's say this condition is met. Email is great. I mean, we can be mailed the next morning. But let's say it's a P1. It's a priority one. This thing cannot drop below minus 40 because whatever the reasons are. Then I can kick off a Power Automate. So it's going to Power Automate now, workflow, in which I can, for example, immediately raise a ticket automatically, a P1 ticket that shoots off immediate WhatsApp messages to the technicians to say that it's a P1, and they must get on site immediately. So you can already see that you can automate this whole environment via the data activator and of course the operations the operation agent as well. And if I go back to this drawing, right, along of the shorties, just to explain it again, you create your semantic model, you create your ontology layer with everything, which has got your rules, alerts, your AI agent, including also your taxonomy, the lingo of your business, the understanding of, in what context are you asking this? Because AI wouldn't know. Like I mentioned those examples. So it's in here. You can see they've actually got this as a very golden. Okay, that's the sun. Okay, because it's there where it happens. So you can create many, many semantic models and then ontology on top of that. Or you can be holistic and create one semantic model and build the ontology on top of that. And then back to this slide over here is once I've got that, you can use the data agent and the operations agent. The one is conversational, the one is automated in order to to do automated remedial actions as well. Now, even within even within that operations agent, it can also pick up anomalies for you. So you can set it that as this data flies in, it suddenly picks up that one fridge is varying the whole time. It comes in, let's say you're picking it up, the frequency and the latency is like every 5 minutes, 5 seconds. You want to see it as an example, but it picks up, it fluctuates. It's minus 40, then it's minus 27, then it's minus 23. And what the operations agent, because remember AI is built behind that as well. What that does, it also would come and recommend and say, I'm picking up an anomaly. And they claim, because it's in preview, they claim that it can even remedial that as well, or push out a report on that. Um, and I think it's quite amazing. In terms of what you can address and what you can do, because ultimately, and not to show you some other stuff now, but if you take this semantic model, it's a semantic model we also use for demos and stuff. It's like a pizza ordering place, and if I look at um, I've connected, I've got all my DAX and stuff in there, so I'm downstream now, right? Where am I? Hold on, let me get back to my deck. My famous one, yeah. Right, I'm there now. Right, I'm working on this Power BI semantic model, and then within this semantic model, and this is what we're busy building. You would see I've got a data dictionary. Do you guys see that? So, because I still want to understand the context of what we're working with and what I'm working with. Um, it means that this data dictionary is specific to this semantic model. Now, I can take this semantic model, by the way, we can just take it back into Fabric IQ and use that and build ontology on top of that. And I think you guys understand that type of point. I just want to open up the actual report on this sales dashboard, the one that I've got locally on doing this. Bear with me 1 second. What's our time? 9:34. We're doing well. And I don't want to digress away now. I'm just shifting a bit downstream for you guys. But when I look at this semantic model, yeah, this is the same semantic model. Right, there we go. It looks familiar. Very simple little semantic model. You can see my relationships. And then I've got, we know that we build our DAX formulas, in its own table, and then relate them, and then data dictionary. So it's kind of like how we did the lingo of it. If I look at the table view and I look at the data dictionary, so from the orders table, I've got the order ID field and then some description. So like, let me find a good one. Yeah. So order details, right? Ordering of the pizza. The field is quantity, and then you can now write context. Quantity ordered for each pizza of the same type and size. Right. Yeah, we've got, yeah, the sizes. So when you talk about sizes, Greg, what are you talking about? Small, medium, large, X large, and double X large. This is kind of like the data catalog that we can shift into like the ontology on top of Fabric IQ, so that we all understand, because remember, this is residing now within Power BI. So it's addressing these little reports that we've got. You'll see them now. It's addressing this and all those DAX formulas. And if I look at, let's take sales overview, you can see that I'm hitting KPIs, and I'm saying, it's quite powerful what I'm doing. But the point is that the context of it is what I apply within a data dictionary. It's this little component. Let me zoom in. It's this little component that we can shift out and create within, even as a data dictionary table that's lying in one lake. But when I create the ontology, I can apply different rules to it. So my good example there would be, we would have that concept of it's raining outside. So I can keep that in a static, we used to call it reference tables, but call it what you may. We would keep it in a static environment. And then when we build the ontology, we would say, right, when Greg opens it, he wants to read the book inside. And when Claire opens that, she wants to go play golf, right? Because the context changes. And that's where it becomes a very powerful as such. And let me just go back to this. So to summarize, and without explaining, reading through slide decks and stuff, which I'll pass to you guys. Basically, uh, the the ontology, not ontology, the Fabric IQ allows us to do to create entities, relationships, and meaning to data for AI, so that we all understand the data, but not just that, it also has the operations agent that'll ensure that we can take corrective measures, that the data is pristine for downstream for reporting. Now, ultimately, and again, it's in preview, so we are still learning every day. It's quite amazing as you work through this, and we're getting our hands dirty because purely I've got to see it work. For me, I can talk, and talk is cheap, but we've got to see it work. Now, if you look at this picture again of mine, right? Okay, so let's say very simple. We create the semantic model. We shift it earlier. We create the ontology on top of that. I'm maybe hitting some IoTs and so forth. Where the other powerful thing is, and this is also something that's in preview, is now I've spoken about the data agent where you can ask this, these questions and it'll give you that bits of information. And I also spoke about the operational data agent in which we can automate and we can say, well, there's an anomaly, shoot and create a ticket automatically and WhatsApp the senior technician. It's a P1, priority one, get out there now type of thing. But what you also can do with operations, you can write back to the original. And now let's say the freezer, we're using, what shall I call, a REST API. I don't know, however we're connecting to that data. So you can actually, if you pick up an anomaly within the operational data of Fabric IQ, you can write it back. You can command it back to the source to say, okay, it's minus 40. No, yeah, I'm talking to the freezer now. You got to change that to minus 35. It's too low. So you can actually go and task it to go and do certain stuff. And that's very powerful because it's all automated and you've picked up these anomalies and then you can task it to go and fix it as well. So over and above the AI component and the IQ that your data has got, you can also do that. As such. As a last thing, so as we move, so obviously once we've built it, right, the Fabric IQ on top of the One Lake, it's part of Fabric. We can then shift it downstream to Power BI. So you're going to get the same effect. Let's just find my right one now. Yeah, this one. So you can see I've got a blank report there. And then you can still, when you ask these questions, and I'm just going to ask now, compare revenue between classic, supreme, and chicken categories. Which one is performing the best? You see, when these questions hit now on Power BI and Copilot, I will compare, but let's see how it takes it. So what I'm in effect doing is I'm talking to the semantic model that's lying in the gold layer now. But you're gonna kind of get the idea of what I'm talking about. Yeah, Copilot is interesting. I can just mention, and it's maybe just a side note. And so Copilot in Power BI, okay, there's it. I'm just going to add it to the page. Right, that's what it's got. So it's come back and said to me, good heavens, it's small. Let's clean it out. What's going on? It's a bit more, you see classic is the one, eh? And then the supreme and then the chicken. Now, what I was going to say about the costing about Power BI. So there's three areas you guys must watch Copilot inside Power BI. So firstly, you're going to have the Power BI licenses. We know it, either the Pro, which is $14, or the Premium, right, for authoring and for publishing and for viewing, depending on your SKU. You're going to have to, for Copilot, have Fabric, at least the entry level of an F2 SKU Fabric. You're going to need that, so you can't discount that. But the other charge, it's not a phenomenal charge. And again, you know what I'll do is I'll send you just that deck that I did, is that the consumption of Copilot. So what they do is the more you use it, if it's like basic five guys asking silly questions like I'm doing now, then you're not going to feel it. But if it's an environment there's heavy lifting, there's 1,000 guys asking questions the whole time, you pay for that. Right, it's not a lot, but it can exponentially climb, and so you're paying over and above the consumption of Fabric and Power BI Pro or Premium licenses, also for the cost incurred on the usage of it. So yeah, I just thought I'll mention that. Okay, so let's wrap up on the Fabric IQ. So in short, um, like I've mentioned, you would have your your semantic model, then your ontology on top of that, your relationship entity rules, and then you got your agents that's doing the work, and then of course your use cases on the right. Generative AI, automated process conversational. That's your data agent. That's your operations agent to automate that, and then Gen AI, and I think the one, and we're busy working on that POC that is quite exciting for us, is Power Automate, because if a certain condition is met, you can kick off a whole work stream of Power Automate to go do some automated action. Like I said to you, email people, or already create the ticket and raise that ticket and so forth. And in general, that is what Fabric IQ is all about. It's part of Fabric. You're not going to pay extra in terms of the Fabric licenses or Fabric consumption, licenses, but it does consume consumption. And then you would ask me, Greg, how much? Now, unfortunately, we started looking at it on the consumption, the usage and the metrics around that, but we're going to have to see. And I suppose, again, it's related to, what heavy lifting is taking place. So in the real world, we set up the Asia Data Factory to run every evening. As an example, it drops it in the one lake, and we've got our semantic models that are filled up. Yeah, so that probably would be consumption. And then it depends what you set up. And again, it's based on the fact that if I ask those, if I ask the questions, around, how many, what is the average temperature of the freezers coming in, and how many times was the freezer door opened in the last 2 days by store, it's going to use consumption. And the same applies to the data activator that works hand in hand with the operation agent, for that automated that I spoke about, that if it comes in, you saw that rule I created, and you guys can play around. There's many use cases. It uses consumption. So that's what we assume. So again, it has to be factored in that if you go in F2, if you go in F4, the higher you go, the more consumption you got, but the more workload you put on it, the more it's going to use consumption. So again, it's part of that, that first 60 days contiguous free trial period. I know Fabric IQ is part of that as well. You guys will have to just check it out. And again, this is a work in progress. As a final thought, and then we can wrap it up. It's a work in progress. When I started seeing it and started working in it, I realized that, sure, there's so many use cases that this will definitely cover for us, especially, and I don't know who's on this call, but a lot of the guys I'm talking to currently, around data governance, around auditing, the protection of personal information, the POPI Act, blah, blah, blah. It's if you create an enterprise data catalog, right, and you've got these ontology on top of a semantic model which defines everything that, it'll also assist in the governance and the auditing, the three-way recon of what happens to data, the custodian of data, and all those big questions the guys ask. There's a huge pressure on many companies to comply. It's compliancy, and and to pass audits on your data, and that you can actually trace the traceability of the origin of data, what changes in between, what have you done, what anomalies were picked up, who owns the data, and all those big words that the guys use. So there's a big drive in many of the clients that we see that needs to fix that. It can be a mess, and I'm not saying your data is a mess, but it's a bit of a mess. The final thing I want to say, the way I see it, Fabric IQ, it's this whole AI thing. If AI asks a question, then there can't be ambiguity. You guys that are married would know sometimes you ask your wife, and I say this tongue in cheek, and then she gives you like a weird answer. Yeah, Greg, but, and she doesn't continue. Now you're confused, like, but what do you mean, but? But what? You can't have it confused because it doesn't understand. So you got to teach it and tell it, listen, that's how I want to see that data. And if a certain XYZ is found. That's how I want you to fix it, and so forth. So it's quite amazing. I know some of you are pretty excited that it moved a bit upstream and that they've done it there. And remember where I started? It also works hand in hand with your work IQ and Foundry IQ. So this is only the Fabric IQ uh, portion that I covered. I would avail my slide decks to you guys at a price of 400 Rand each. No, I'm kidding. I will avail it to you guys. Um, because you also want something to work off. This was an AI generated one. I thought it was amazing. Okay, I thought, wow. Because normally you get like spelling errors. That's the other thing. So you send it in, you say to the little Copilot, yeah, hey Copilot, create this for me. And then it comes like, it doesn't say personalized insights, it says personalized and some weird word, ingestion. So you just got to check it. But yeah, I'll share this with you guys, and I'm sure many of you I would see down the road in some shape, way, or form, and we can work together. It's pretty exciting. I hope some of you are also doing what we're doing, because some of you don't have a lot of work. I'm kidding. Is to do POCs. Go in there and just take a little use case and say, well, let me go see about it. You might find you see it differently to me and to what we see it. So yeah, I think I'm going to end there and I'll stop sharing. And if there's any questions, I can't guarantee I can answer them all, but if it's something that's beyond the scope of what I know, because it's only been 3 weeks since we've received this, then I can answer that. If I can't, we can just answer afterwards. And anybody that wants to leave a comment that's on the group, you're welcome to do that as well. Thank you, Claire. I'm going to stop here.
No problem. Greg, I just have a few questions on my side that I received. So the first one is, how does Fabric IQ support real-time decisioning differently from traditional alerting built directly in Power BI or SQL?
No, okay, so it doesn't, but you've got the ontology. So what it means is you can still do traditional event streaming using the event houses, the event hubs, the custom query language, still the same. In-flight data that you enter, it's still the same. It's not different. But the difference is what they've given us. We can build a specific semantic model, right, that uses real-time data that then relates to relational data that's historical, right, similar to what we do. But then on top of that is that ontology, because then we can say, understanding of this data. How do I interpret that minus 40 coming in? Is it minus 40 Fahrenheit? Is it Celsius? So the ontology is the key word. It gives an additional layer that we can provide context to business. So yeah, you can still do your event streaming going all the way through and write it to event houses and so forth. It hasn't changed, no.
Thank you. One more question.
Yeah, shoot.
What's the clearest signal that an organization is ready for Fabric IQ versus still needing foundational data work?
Please go again. What is the?
What's the
I'm gonna.
clearest signal that an
Yeah.
organization is ready for Fabric IQ versus still needing foundational data work?
Yeah, okay. I try and answer that. If anybody else can, if I understand. You see, now I'm trying to understand the question, like Fabric IQ. What's the context of the question? Um, when are people ready? So, I mean, traditionally, a lot of guys are only moving to Fabric now. Now these guys come and say, "Hey, we've got something new." You've just got your plate of food, and then you're like, "Hey, here's something more." And I think the way I see it, so I go from what is the rationale for me behind it, and I saw it with this POC, is that you're ready now. If you've got use cases where you think, oh, you know what, that ontology, that automated process, I'm ready for that. So you're actually ready right now. A lot of guys are still on the journey. A lot of people have, the data is such a mess that they would not even touch Fabric IQ at this stage because they just want to fix the source of the data. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is maturity. You see, the guys come to us, Claire, then they're like, hey, Greg, we want to do Power BI. And like, bro, this is going to be the best Power BI reports, I'm telling you. And then you go and then you show us your data. And now I get it from Excel. What happens? No, then this guy fills in data and it's a mess. So maturity, then, your Gartner, we use like Gartner. What's the other one? people, what's the other one we use? But it's like a maturity level, because we would go in and say, bro, you're not ready for that report, because you scoring a 4 out of 10, and now you want to come do reports, and then we look bad because, Greg, this report's not working, bro. You can't get the data out here. Meantime, it's not my problem. So to answer that question is, you can do it anytime. If you, some of you are ready to do that, you can already see the rationale behind it. Other guys are still on a journey. Other guys are still migrating. Other guys must first fix the origin of data, the source of data, the lineage, and then you can put context on it. Sure, I was waffling there now, but I think you get the idea that we're all different as to where we are. All I know is it's part of Fabric coming, and all I know is that it's part of your consumption. So you got to just check it and make sure that you cover the cost.
Okay, cool.
No
That's
personal
it.
questions.
No
like
personal questions,
like
unfortunately.
my marital problems and stuff. You can't,
None of
but
that.
guys, I always say to people that I'm like, you got the umbilical cord through to us, because I don't know everything. I'm learning, and I'm just blown away every day, because there's so many different angles, and they're adding things, and it's like, oh, here's another thing, and stuff. But I think if you subjectively remove yourself and, outside the box, and you look back in, and you just say, wow, where can I use this? Maybe it's a more elegant way than you're doing it now. And I'm not saying get rid of the event streaming you guys are doing, or the machine learning, or the data science, but maybe this is a little gold nugget that you guys can apply. That's what I see in your business. And it's business related. It's got nothing to do with anybody else.
Okay. Thank you for your time, everyone, and joining our session today. Please see in the chat window for the link for next week's session around Foundry IQ. If you would like to reach out to anyone or be contacted, you can reach out to your First Technology account manager or your First Digital BDM or myself, Claire.
Yeah.
I will share the video shortly as soon as it's available. And that's it from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you,
Thanks,
guys. See you
Greg.
soon. Eh? All the best.